Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Secrets to Real Estate Investing. And I met this gentleman who's our guest today at a seminar, which I highly recommend you guys go and get educated and go to industry meetings and mix it up, meet people from all around the country or the world when you can. And this gentleman and I met at a tax-deferred, tax-free, tax-advantage investing seminar, which I'm a huge fan of. Like, why give the government any more money than you have to legally? I never do anything illegal, but I like to keep as much of it as I can for myself. And with that, welcome to the show, Rich Lennon. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Holly. How are you?
Great. Thanks so much for giving up some of your very valuable time to come and share some of your experiences with our listeners and hopefully some great tips and advice for them. Why don't you give us your background and your backstory on where you've been and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. And it was great to meet you at that tax seminar. I guess there's no denying that I'm a true adult now. When I go out to Las Vegas and I spend 10 hours a day in a hotel learning about tax information, and I'm like, hey, this is super cool. And I guess I'm an adult now.
Well, and I have to interject really quick there. I was there 2 weekends in a row at the Golden Nugget, and I don't know which one. It was the weightlifting, powerlifting conference or competition was like one of those weekends. And so all these big burly guys are in the elevator, and I'm there with my notebooks and everything and my laptop. And they're like, what are you guys here for? I'm like, oh, I'm here for a nerd conference. So, yeah, we're the nerds learning taxes and how to avoid paying them and real estate and all that. Anyway, we're old and nerdy now. Yeah,
it's so true. It was great. I meet great people, and John Hire, I think, is one of the best on his topics. And it was great. I really appreciated meeting you. Thanks for the opportunity.
We got to have John on a future episode. He said he'll come on. So,
he is a trip. He's worth having for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay, so back to your story.
Yes,
Here we go.
yes. All right. So a little bit about myself. I think it's probably fair to say I'm a serial entrepreneur, which is another word for I'm just totally unemployable. That's probably accurate. I went to Virginia Tech University. I studied engineer. So I was an engineer by nature and math-based most of my life. I came out of school and very, very short time working for General Electric in nuclear reactors. And I recall just sitting around one day I was literally in a nuclear reactor, and I said, okay, this is not what I want to do with my life. And I've probably been a serial entrepreneur ever since then. In my 20s, I was a soccer coach, a youth soccer coach, and I created an organization where I hired out other coaches, and that was my first real stint at running an organization and people, and that was great. I did that for about 10 years, and then I ran the family business for 3 or 4 years after my father passed with my brother. He and I ran it together. And then I did an internet business where I was kind of just doing other people's traffic across websites and building websites and taking advantage of rankings in Google, etc. And then we moved to Richmond, Virginia about 7 years ago. And so I was just stay-at-home dad for 2 or 3 years. And, as you and I were talking, that is a lot of work. And after our third child, I said to the wife, I said, okay, I'm going to start looking for a job. And we explored franchising and buying restaurants. And, ultimately I fell back on real estate. I had bought and owned homes for about 10 years and become kind of an accidental landlord. I bought a property, moved somewhere else, didn't have to sell the first one, so kept it. So it was something I believed in. And the goal was to buy one a year for retirement. And then it became one every 6 months, and then one a quarter, and then one a month. And then, we try to buy one a week. And so it just kind of grew, and I've been a full-time investor for about 5 years now.
Holy moly. That's a big acceleration up to one a week. And with buying one a week is the goal of flipping, holding, wholesaling, or a combination?
Yeah, combination. I'm a real believer in long-term hold. And so I believe that the way to wealth is through passive income and controlling and accumulating hard assets of real estate. And so I try to keep as many as I can, but I have to keep earning more money to be able to buy more rentals. And so I use wholesaling and flipping as a way to support my rental habit, as I like to put it.
Got it.
Yeah, we just crank them out. We do best we can.
I love it. Well, I always love to ask my guests about their first deal. So would you mind sharing with us what your first deal was and whether you made money or lost money? And you might even still have it since you're a keeper.
Well, the first one I didn't keep. The first one was a wholesale deal. I had come to my wife and I said, hey, I'd like to get some houses on a contract and I'd like to go buy some houses. And she looked at me across the table like I had two heads or was from Mars or something. And so I went out, I posted an ad on Craigslist, and somebody replied to that ad, and I ended up getting a house under contract, and I wholesaled that house, and I think I wholesaled it for $12,000. And I took that $12,000, put it back into marketing, and it was just kind of off to the races. I kind of proved to myself and proved to my wife that, hey, there might be something to this thing. It's not just a get rich quick scheme on the internet that I read about. It's real estate's very powerful and very real. So, I convinced her of it, and we've been kind of charging straight ahead ever since. It's been a tremendous journey.
That's awesome. Okay, so your first deal you made $12,000. That's fantastic. I talked to plenty of people that they break even or lose money. So good for you. It also helps when you're trying to convince a spouse that this is a path worth pursuing, isn't it?
Yes, and you might have to do it a couple times, because that was my first deal and we made money, and then we bought a couple and we kept them as rentals. But my first flip was like anybody's first flip. It was very difficult, very challenging. The contractor stole money from me. I mean, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. We ended up squeaking a small profit out of it. But that was my first flip, and that one we did earn a little bit, but it's a journey. Wholesaling, you never lose money. That's the beauty of it, right? And so that was probably a great one to start with. Oh,
yeah. Well, tell us about your best deal, if you would. What comes to mind with that?
Well, so probably, boy, that's a tough one. Flipping houses. We've flipped the historical houses in downtown Richmond, which can be extremely profitable. So you can buy them at $70,000 or $80,000, and you can sell them for the mid 300s. And so there's a lot of room, but you're pulling out houses that were built in 1910, and you're trying to maintain all the historical charm and the woodwork, and so they're certainly challenging, but they can be very profitable. So those have definitely been my most profitable deals. Big flips that can earn upper 5 digits and sometimes lower 6 digits. So it can be very profitable if done correctly, and you can make mistakes though, and it can be unprofitable sometimes as well. It happens.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Do you have any stories you could share that were either your worst deal or your biggest learning opportunity that you had on a deal?
Well, I think my biggest learning opportunity was actually that first flip that I talked about. And I think that I got taken advantage of in every way possible. So, the real estate agents, the contractors, and I say taken advantage of, but that's probably not accurate. I wasn't educated enough to be able to make the right decisions. It's probably a more accurate way to describe it. And from that flip, we actually have a saying in our house. And the saying is, Jelly doesn't care. And Angelina, her nickname is Jelly, is my first daughter. And I remember going through a lot of trials and tribulations during that flip. And it was I either had to put on my big boy pants and just deal with it and power through and really embrace it and learn, or just give up. And I think every entrepreneur is kind of in that spot. And so the mantra or the tagline in our house became, Jelly doesn't care. And so if I could come home and explain to my 3-year-old about my contractor problems, then it mattered. But of course, she looked at me with a total blank face, and she was just like, okay, Daddy, are the lights going to be on? Are you going to pay for my college fund? Where's my food? It's cold in here. Turn up the heat. She just, she didn't care. And so it really became we're fighting for our legacy. We're fighting for something that's bigger than us. And the real lesson I really came out of there is that, your family doesn't care. You just got to get the job done. And if you just focus on that, you can really overcome almost anything. And there were always some tough moments on that flip, but staying focused on your why, and always being open to the fact that, hey, the problems in your business are your own problems that you created yourself. You can go in and solve them. It's pretty powerful.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And everybody's got to go up the learning curve. I think it helps the more resources of friends or peers you have that you can go to with questions. Say, does this sound right to you? And whenever you're getting a high quote or a runaround or a story from a contractor or vendor. So I'm a big believer in having a network of people that you can go to, especially starting out. But I use it all the time now. 200 deals into it, I'm still reaching out to my network all the time and asking questions because I'm still learning.
I think it was David Phelps is the first one I heard say it, but it's your network is your net worth. And I think that's so much in that your network can either get you deals, it can get you money, it can solve your construction problems, it can solve your business management problems. The network is a key. Absolutely.
That's definitely true. And that is the saying I have on my Facebook networking group, which you'll have to go join in. It's a Hard Hat Holly's real estate investing team. And I have that exact phrase up on the homepage because it's so true. The more people you know and the more people that you can help and the more you can learn and share, the more money you'll make and your network will make. So very good advice.
Absolutely.
Well, tell us about your next phase of your journey that you went into and Podio and that whole topic.
Okay. So I was very, either I worked hard or I was very lucky or a combination of the above, but I grew rather quickly. And I went from one house a year to two houses a year to one a quarter. And before I know it, we were just closing contracts everywhere. And I've always been a lone wolf. I mean, that's what I've been. I've never been a big office guy, although I have one today. At the time, I did not. And when you're closing that many properties and renovating that many properties and then keeping them, so you have to get tenants on the back end, what I thought was freedom, which was, hey, I'm running my own business, I get to do what I want with my life, really became, a chain around my neck of 15 hours a day working and, things just falling through the cracks and I just couldn't keep up with it. And I was on a cruise on the Financial Friends Network cruise, something I go on regularly. And someone said something about Podio. And Podio was a management software, kind of open-ended, open source, so that you could get it to do what you want, and it allowed for a lot of integration with technology. And so I came off the cruise and I said, hey, I'm gonna put my business on Podio. I didn't really realize how naive that statement was when I was making it, of course. And I spent the next year trying to automate my own personal business and trying to make it so that I could get tenants in my house and so I could keep collecting my rents and so I could still make my private money payments. And so internally in the office, we started doing a ton of automation, learning ourselves because there's not a lot of learning tools for Podio. There wasn't a lot of information out there at the time. And I started speaking on it. My friends encouraged me to speak and I started to get up and talking about it. And the next thing I knew, people kind of knew me for the Podio thing. And so we just kept developing and developing. And now Podio runs my business really from soup to nuts, from beginning, even before I get the lead. If I have a crazy idea about how to get a lead, all the way through till if it's a rental in my portfolio, it's all in one place. And I love it. And it's really changed my business and changed the way we run things.
Wow, that's a great overview. And probably many people listening have no idea what Podio is. And I don't use it myself, but my limited knowledge of it is that I thought it was useful and helpful, especially for investors, to use as a CRM and tracking leads through the system, through acquisitions, and I know wholesalers that use it and flippers that use it. So I didn't know it's something that could be used in managing a rental portfolio, but it sounds like you do use it for that, right?
Yeah, we do. And, I think Podio can be used for anything. And that, like, it could run a law firm. It's just a project management piece of software that is run on the Citrix platform and is therefore is very integratable with technology. And so you can build processes in it and then automate an individual process within it. And so Podio can do anything from manage your lead sources to manage your direct mail to manage your properties to manage your rehabs. It can allow you like a 30,000 feet view of it, so that if you have a team working for you, I can be in a hotel in Las Vegas learning about tax information, and I can still keep track of my entire business about what's going on. And I can still operate really from anywhere in the world. So Podio can really do almost anything automation-wise. Let me ask you this, Holly. I like to ask people this question. What in your business, what would you like to automate? And I'll tell you how you can automate it.
That is a great question.
Like what's the thing you hate the most?
Okay, well, one thing that bugs me, and it's a little thing, but I have two tenants in particular that I need to follow up with and remind them to pay rent. I got to go and check whether they deposited their rent in the bank, and then I've got to send them a text reminding them, hey, you whatever their payment plan is or whatever. Is that something that you're talking about that could work?
Yeah. So here's something that we did to really drastically increase our receivables for people getting paid in on time. So what we do is on the first, if you haven't paid, we automate. So it's set up automatically. On the first, it says, hey, this is Rich. Just a reminder, we haven't received your rent yet. Don't forget to send it in. And then the very next day, hey, didn't hear from you yesterday. The rent was due yesterday. Let me know where you are. And then the third day, another one comes up. And then the fourth one is like, hey, you're getting the late fee tomorrow. Don't forget, that's a 10% penalty. We're filing the pay or quit in 2 days. And I can automate. I can break the chain. So if they pay, I can just stop the text. But I don't have to re-text them every time. The texts start automatically. And then if they reply to the text, that's the only time I'll become aware of it. So my text just goes out. If they ignore them, to be honest, I don't even know they're going out. So if you have a large portfolio, like on the first of the month, you might have 100 texts go out, and then 50 on the second, and then 20 on the third, and then you basically are hounding them. And then if it's not in by 5 p.m., I just have a virtual assistant do it. We just push a button in our Podio, and all the information about what they owe me, like you've done a pay or quit, right? Those are not fun to do, right? You have to, how much exactly do they owe you? You have to word it the right way. You have to go get it certified mail and send it down to them. Mm-hmm. Well, now with Podio, we push a button, and it just creates the PDF automatically, has all the information in the letter. We use click to mail. It drops it in the U.S. Postal. It goes certified mail. It goes out the door, and it takes me, I don't know, less than a second to push the button, however long it takes. And so
that sounds amazing. I had no idea that could all be automated. Yet, I'm sure you invested a lot of time and energy to set up that automation, right?
Yeah, you certainly have to invest in the time to set up your automation. Your business needs will be different than my business needs, and you'll need to set them up for yourself. But it's not as complicated as it is. And I've talked to you. We do sell a product on Podio, and we produce 100 videos that kind of show you, hey, this is how you set up. Like if you want to receive all the HUD bids into your Podio every single day, and so that you can just click a button and you make a bid on every HUD property. It's a pretty powerful feature. So you can make a bid on every HUD property in your state every single day, and it takes you about 20 minutes. And so
wow.
you can we sub little tutorials to teach people how to integrate Podio with their business. And so it's not click and it happens. You have to set it up, but it's also at the same time, it's not terribly complicated. It's, it's like baking a cake. If you can read the directions, you can probably get it done.
I like an engineer talking about baking a cake. Why don't you tell, I love that example you just gave. What are something that I think people would be really interested to hear about is the automation system possible. The HUD bids is super interesting because I know a guy in the Midwest that does HUD bids. So I can't wait to tell him about this idea. Basically someone could design a business around what is easy and possible in Podio, couldn't they? Like the HUD bidding?
Yes, definitely. And when you use Podio, and everybody says it's hard to get leads. Hey, I can't find a lead. How do you get a lead? When you have an automation process, it's the opposite. It's how do I manage the leads? So we could get easily 3,000 to 5,000 leads a month just in the Richmond market. And those are just from the HUDs and auction.com and your local MLS and HomePath and Hubzu and all the sites. You can aggregate them all to one spot and you can make very quick bids because with Podio you can set up so you do I'm a real estate investor. True confession, I'm not very good at doing all the contract work I should do, right? Do you always fill out all your paperwork, Holly, every single time so it's perfect?
I try to push that onto other people, but not the best use of our time, as you know.
Well, when I was a lone wolf and I was doing it myself, I would fall behind on my paperwork, and there's always paperwork. So in Podio, we just automated. I push a button and it creates the contract for me. Like I put in, I want to bid this amount of money, so I only have to type in a little bit of information, push a button, PDF prints out, and I'm done.
Wow.
And so moderating the number of leads really becomes the issue versus hey, I can't find any leads. Because the truth is there's enough leads out there, but it's hard to jump around. You can spend all day looking on websites for the leads. Having an automated system to put them in one spot is just super valuable.
Well, and then I'm thinking there would probably be some way that I could utilize it to follow up with realtors and wholesalers who have brought me deals in the past without me sending individual texts, emails, and calls to all of those lead sources for me, because I'm a big fan of networking for deals. And that's how I bought my last 100+ houses, is from people knowing me and liking me and bringing me a deal and then closing it. And I think, gosh, I got to follow up with all those people again. But what could Podio do for that? Someone like me who's a networker.
So you can set up, almost an unlimited number of ways to follow up with people. So not just a wholesaler, because a wholesaler, maybe you put them on, hey, I'm going to drip this wholesaler. I'm going to send them 2 texts a month, and I'm going to send them 1 email a month. And you could, as long as you had those emails ahead of time that you wanted to send out, you could set a process and automate a process in Podio so that you could choose the strategy in which you want to communicate. You could say wholesale response number 1, which is 2 texts a month, 1 email a month for 6 months. Or, hey, I really like this wholesaler. He's hot. He does a lot. I'm going to text this guy 2 times a week and 4 emails a month. And so you can, down to an individual human being, you can automate for years in advance, literally years. You could set up your automation for them, and then you don't ever have to worry about doing it again. And it just goes out, and it appears that you're sending hundreds of texts and hundreds of emails, but in the reality is you are totally unaware that they're going out. You forget about them.
I love it.
So another great follow-up is when someone calls you with the lead. So I do a lot of the seller calls me. I do direct mail. I do pay-per-click. So I do get a lot of calls. And I used to live on a little Post-it note, right? You just write the little Post-it note, say, hey, call Mr. Smith next week. And then when there's 400 Post-it notes on your board, you lose track of it.
Yeah.
So, you can set up with Podio, hey, Mr. Smith called me up. He is 65 plus and he's going to sell in the next year. right? There's no urgency. So I click one way to interact with Mr. Smith that says I'm going to send them an email and a text every month and follow up with them, and those go out automated. But then I get a call the next minute from Mr. Jones, and he's in foreclosure, and he's gonna sell his house in a month. Your marketing strategy is very different to that guy, and so Podio will just allow you to choose a different way to respond and interact with them. And again, you set up your own how you want to interact with that pre-foreclosure lead or something like that. So it's very customizable about how you interact with people.
I love it. That sounds brilliant. I wish it could tell my kids what to do and when to do it.
Okay.
Go unload the dishwasher. Go take the trash out.
Okay. All right. I'll tell you the story real quick. I don't want to be sidetracked, but now you and I created one day. Okay. Yes, there was a glass of wine involved, and it was with a bunch of friends, but we created the Wife app. And so the Wife app was an app that you could go in and you could program into that app all the significant events in her life, her birthdays, Christmases, anniversaries, her sister's stuff, and you could automate emails and texts and interaction that said, hey, don't forget in 3 days' time, it's your sister's birthday. And from the wife, it looks like you're remembering all that stuff. And so the wife loved the app. She thought it was a great idea. So she's well in on the fact. But you say teenagers, you can do it serendipitously as well, where you just randomly drop in a text. So you could pick every fourth Saturday morning and you could text your kid, hey, was that really worth doing last night? And so just you can do anything with it, right? You can, hey, I saw what you did last night, or whatever, or automate to them, hey, don't forget to take out the trash, or you can do all that stuff.
Okay.
You can make an app at Podio.
The trash thing would work because every Tuesday morning we're like, kids, get the trash out to the curb. So
I get a notification every Thursday night at 9:00 to take the trash out. I'll be honest.
Okay, so that wasn't that far off base to suggest that, huh?
Because the wife was like, how do I get you to take out the trash? Well, I have a solution for that. And so, so we set that up. So I literally get that text.
I love it. Brilliant, brilliant. Hey, we're getting near the end of our show here, and I kind of failed to do this in advance, but I wanted to hear, did you have a chance to put together a free download for our listeners?
Absolutely. So
awesome. Tell us about what it is.
So we have the top 10 things that you should be doing with Podio. And so we're list out the things that some of them that we talked about here today, about things that you probably never realized you could automate in your life, and just give your listeners an idea of the power of what you can do with a good system. And,
awesome.
And we do sell a product. And then we'll give 20% off to any of your listings that anybody who's listening today. Just go to www.360vestor.com/hardhatholly. And
awesome.
they'll be able to get a 20% discount. The product is $999, and then it's a $39 monthly fee to upkeep the automation. But it's worth checking out. We'd be happy to give it to any of your users that are interested.
Fantastic. Thank you. So listeners, you'll be able to grab this free download at hardhatholly.com/91. We're episode 91. And you can also get it if you're on your smartphone and you just want to shoot a text to the number 38470. So you put that in on the to field, 38470, and you're going to text hard hat, all one word, no spaces. And I will shoot you back the link to this great download, as well as all of our past downloads, and you'll get a notification just once a week of when our podcasts are published. So Rich, you're awesome, and I can't wait to learn more about what Podio can do for me. I just love it. Sounds like it can make your life so much more productive, efficient, and in my case, it lets me do more instead of less. But I don't work less hours. I just get more done in the work time I do.
That is so true. That is so true. You never, an entrepreneur just always works. It's in our nature. The more successful ones understand, right? You don't get more time, but you get more efficient time.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks again so much for your time. And what advice would you give to somebody who's, in the newer, probably 0 to 2 years time of their investing life, like what advice would you give them? Because you've had a ton of experience, done a ton of deals, but what advice would you give them?
Jelly doesn't care. I mean, it really is our mantra. You in this business are going to take some licks, and you have to stand back up. And no one is going to do it for you. And if you have the perseverance, real estate can change your life. It give you financial freedom that you always probably dreamed of, but you have to be resilient. You know, you have to have a why. You can't just be, I want money. That's not enough. You got to have a why, and in the dark moments, if you can explain it to a 3-year-old, it's a valid point. But I assure you could never explain anything to a 3-year-old. So you just have to keep going.
Amen, brother. I love it. So listeners, get out there, take some action. Remember to go over to our Facebook page, Hard Hat Holly, the website, hardhatholly.com. Take advantage of all the many free downloads that we've created for you to help you on your real estate investing journey. Get out there and take some action, and check out Podio and take advantage of Rich's opportunity. All the details will be in the show notes, so you can click on them there. Thanks so much for listening, and make it a great day, guys. Hey there, thanks for watching the video. Make sure you like it and click subscribe to get notified of more videos. And you can go to hardhatholly.com for a free download on secrets to finding great deals.